Awesome. Thank you. So welcome. So we're going to have a couple warm-up questions for our mentee to kind of get you used to things before we actually throw some quiz questions at you. So first question, what type of organization are you with, if any at all? Could be a domestic violence shelter, animal shelter, a homeless shelter. Perhaps you're a funder, you're from law enforcement, vet medicine. You could be an individual or some other type of organization. So I'll give folks a couple minutes to share. Super exciting. Looks like we've got a few folks from across the board joining us. And I couldn't help but include that image for you, Bryn, of the Huskies.
It's not that distracting. I mean, it's just like a little distracting.
Just a little. Awesome. All right. Excellent. So we got 23 votes there. A couple more popping in. Let's go. We're going to go to our next question. If you have a pet, what is their name? We'll give folks a couple of seconds to enter that. Again, just kind of some practice to get you all used to the mentee. I want you to feel good and ready to go before we get to quiz questions. Because I will tell you, when we get to quiz questions, they're multiple choice, but you do get more points if you answer correctly and the quickest. Sherry, you cannot play this time. Awesome. And fun to see some of the responses coming in on the Zoom chat. That is totally acceptable as well. I love seeing all the names. I love Krabby. Krabby, I think, is my favorite one so far. So we have a Krabby. It would be great if Krabby was actually a crab. Awesome. All right. Let's skip ahead. There we go. So a really quick definition piece. What do we mean when we talk about a pet housing program? So we generally break this up into two different segments. So one segment we refer to as on-site housing or co-sheltering. Essentially, this means that a domestic violence survivor and their pet are living in the same location at a domestic violence shelter. Okay. Lots of different ways that can look. Could be in-room, could be utilizing an existing space somewhere, could be actually including a new shed or a new building, right? So that's on-site housing. Off-site housing generally refers to when the pets of a domestic violence survivor are staying in a separate location from a domestic violence survivor. So that could be maybe at an animal shelter, it could be maybe at a boarding facility, or even foster-based. So those are kind of the two general buckets that pet housing programs fall in. And of course, for the 25 by 2025 campaign, we're really focused on this top one. So the on-site housing or co-sheltering. So my next question, which is not a quiz question, but we are going to settle the age-old debate. Are you team dog or are you team cat? And that is actually my dog and my cat. Tia wants to be a raccoon, so that works too. Awesome. I love seeing the votes coming in online. Wow, we are almost split even. That's amazing. So I did this, just a week ago, and I want to say we were very much team dog last week at the NOVA conference. So nice. Now we are actually even. So we're going to skip ahead right now while we're even. I don't even know what the votes are with everybody in the Zoom chat. But the reason why I like to ask that question is because we often get asked this question. Well, when you say a pet housing program and you say, let's keep survivors with their pets, do you just mean cats and dogs? Well, here's the fun fact, folks. Pets encompass many different varieties of animals. And so anytime that we work with a domestic violence shelter to create a pet housing program, we really encourage them to think outside of just dogs and cats. We hear really, really great stories from shelters around the country where they have provided housing for goats, for chickens, for snakes, for fish, for gerbils, even ducks. And so, when we talk about this kind of pet housing program, we really do need to make sure that we think outside of the dogs and cats. Don't worry, domestic violence shelter folks. I am not saying that you need to house goats or horses or cows at your shelter location. That is certainly where your partnerships with your animal rescue organizations will come in. We have a strategy for that. So if you are really interested in finding out what resources you might have near you, we've got a couple resources listed on the screen right now. So domesticshelters.org and the National Domestic Violence Hotline, they are both directories of domestic violence organizations throughout the US and Canada for domesticshelters.org. And both of them actually now offer a pet filter. And so you can log on and you can select, hey, show me all of the on-site housing for pets, show me the off-site housing for pets. So really great resources there. There's also the Safe Havens Mapping Project. And so this is a directory of pet housing programs in the US, okay? And so that is also going to include some of those on-site and off-site housing options as well. So just want to make sure you all have some options and some resources so that you can find resources near you. So this is our first quiz question. I'm going to give folks a second to log in. Don't worry, you don't have to use your real name. And if you use the system generated name, I promise it's going to be a lot of fun. They come up with some really great ones. And I do apologize. Feel free to ask your questions in the Zoom. We will leave a little bit of time at the end to make sure we cover any questions. The team is also ready to answer any questions. So we'll definitely cover some questions today. So I'm gonna skip forward. Here we go. Question number 1. What percentage of domestic violence shelters in the US have on-site housing programs? Is it 3%? We know it's not. I'll give you that one. 10%, 17%, 25%, or 62%? You have about 6 seconds. We have some votes coming in on Zoom chat. All right, everyone has voted. That's right. 17%. So right now we're at about 17%, slightly over, but we'll round it down. 17% of shelters are pet friendly. Okay, let's check out the leaderboard. Laurel is in first place. Is this Laurel from RedRover?
No.
No. Awesome. All right. So it's a close race up at the top. Excellent. Yeah, and we're here because we are working really, really hard to get to 25% by 2025. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we are working with Greater Good Charities to help get to this 25% with generous support from PetSmart Charities, and super glad that they could join us here today. So why become pet friendly? Well, one of the reasons is that pet-friendly shelters remove a key barrier for survivors to escape abuse. There's a lot of great research that you can check out at the National Link Coalition. Phil Arco and his team put together just a wealth of information related to the link between human and animal violence. But generally, we see that about 50% of domestic violence survivors will delay leaving an abuser out of concern for their pet. Through our Safe Escape program, where we essentially help to cover the cost of boarding while a survivor is in shelter, we hear stories from some survivors that they've lived in their cars for 6 months with multiple pets while they've waited to find a pet-friendly space, right? And we also know that about 25% of survivors reported that they returned to their abuser out of concern for their pet. So that came out of a study back in 2015 from the ASPCA. And so essentially, survivors had left an abuser, they had to leave their pet at home with the abuser, and that abuser used that pet as a means to get them to return home. Okay. And we also know that roughly between 22 and 57% of unhoused women report that DV was the immediate cause. So we know that there is a big correlation between people experiencing homelessness and people experiencing domestic violence. Okay. So next question for you. I'll give folks a second. Okay. I think we're at about 34, 35 last time. What percentage of survivors indicated that keeping their pet with them factored into their decision to seek shelter? I'll tell you where this study came from in just a couple of seconds. But is it 33%? Is it 56%, 68%, 82%, or 97%? Yeah, 97%. So again, I'll share that statistic with you in just a second, but let's check out our leaderboard first. Awesome. Sheila, the crab, is in the lead. So that statistic came out of a study between the Urban Resource Institute in New York City and the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And in 2021, they surveyed about 2,500 survivors who were calling, chatting in, looking for resources via the hotline. And they asked them about their experience related to domestic violence and animal abuse. And 97% of them said, yeah, keeping my pet with me factors into my decision to seek shelter. What I find to be one of the most important pieces of this particular PALS report is that it's 2,500 people. A lot of our foundational research related to the link between human and animal violence really relied on survivors that were already in shelter. And so you saw really small sample sizes, and you saw folks obviously that were already in shelter. And so this study, PALS report, really gives us, I think, a more holistic picture of what it means to be a survivor and to be experiencing domestic violence and animal abuse at the same time. Okay. And we'll pull out a few more statistics from this PALS report during our time together. One of our Safe Housing Grant recipients had this to share. Do not be tempted to view this project as just something else on your to-do list. It is important and may make all the difference in a victim's decision to leave or stay. Okay. So reason number 2 for pet-friendly programs. Pet-friendly shelters can break the link between abuse of pets and abuse of people. So again, I mentioned the National Link Coalition a little bit earlier, which really just helped bring to light this link between human and animal violence. And I think Phil Arco said it best when he said, when animals are abused, people are at risk. When people are abused, animals are at risk. Going back to that PALS report, survivors shared with us, 48% of them said that the threat to pets was a worry. They shared, 37% of them shared that the abuser had threatened to harm or kill a pet already. And 29% said the abuser had actually harmed or killed the pet. And 76% had already noticed changes in their pet's behavior. Okay. Our third reason is that pet-friendly shelters can strengthen the connection and trust between survivors, their pets, and shelter staff. We hear, and this I think is maybe one of the unintended benefits that, Bren, I would say you and I probably heard fairly quickly on in our work together, is that, we understood that we were removing a barrier. We understood, that this was really helping to break the violence link. But so many domestic violence shelters share with us that this really increases staff morale. Just that idea of not having to say no to a survivor, no, we can't take you and your pet who's a family member. That I think is just an incredible benefit. But we also hear from staff in shelter that really just enjoy having pets in shelter. They really share that it makes it feel like home. It makes it feel more like a more comfortable environment. This really does recognize whole families. There was a recent study, I believe it came from Pew Research, that 95% of pet owners consider their pet to be a member of the family. And so when we create these pet-friendly programs, we really are recognizing the entire family unit, right? This is also a really incredible way to build trust and empathy and compassion with clients. We hear it so often that, again, when we recognize that entire family, survivors just feel more trusting in the services. And I think part of that is because pets are kind of a social lubricant, right? They're a conversation starter. Even me just asking that question, like, what's your pet's name? You all jumped all over that. I know I've lived in my home, I think, for about 4 years. And I only know the neighbors in my neighborhood who walk their dogs, because those are the ones that I go and talk to, right? And I will say, I finally know the human names attached to them, but I know the dog names way before I actually remembered the human names. And they are actually very lovely people. And I love seeing them and talking with them, but we bonded over dogs. We bond over pets, right? And so it is just this really great way to kind of start that conversation and really engage with folks. Reason number 4, there are resources, grants, and funding available for shelters to become pet friendly right now. So certainly, there are these grants right now. RedRover, we offer up to $60,000 for a domestic violence shelter to become pet friendly. We review those applications 3 times a year. Bryn, do you want to talk a little bit about your rescue rebuild renovation grant since you're here?
Sure. So we have open enrollment. There is no standard review phase. We look at them as we need new candidates. We do not have an upper limit on them, but most of our projects range from 75,000 to about 150,000. But more importantly, as Katie would have mentioned, the trauma is that we show up and do the building ourselves. We function much like Habitat for Humanity. So if you're struggling to get contractors in your area, give us a call. We might be able to help.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have a few other resources that we have listed on the Don't Forget the Pets website. So it's don'tforgetthepets.org/resources. So yes, there is grant funding available to start this programming. But really the key thing that I want you all to know is if you build it, they will come. That means in terms of donations, supplies, but it also means in terms of money. So one of our safe housing grant recipients shared with us, we are getting more people wanting to donate to our animal program than to our core services serving people. The public loves the program. It's a bit of a sad fact, but it is a fact that I think we can positively exploit, that people really do just like donating to animal causes. And we hear this sentiment from so many organizations. I think at the beginning of becoming pet friendly, a lot of organizations are worried about funding to start it, but more importantly, funding to maintain it. The vast majority of organizations that we work with don't have any trouble maintaining their program. They generally don't have to dip into their general operating budgets unless we're talking about like really, really big programs. This really is a fundraising tool for folks. So I think that's one of the greatest benefits of becoming pet friendly. And number 5 is really that pet friendly shelters allow pets and people to heal together. This is probably not anything that is new to those of us who have pets. We know the healing effects of our pets, but let's think about what science has to tell us. Siri had something to say about that. I will give folks just another couple of seconds to get logged in for our next question. It's question 3 of 5. Okay. All right. Think we're about there. Next question. How many minutes do you need to spend with a dog to lower cortisol levels? So cortisol levels are the stress hormones, right? Is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes? How many minutes? We have a couple of votes coming in on the chat. I'm seeing some 5s in there, some 20s. Yeah, so the 5ers, you are right. Takes about 5 minutes. Let's check out the leaderboard. Uh-oh, I think Laurel has stopped playing now. I'm sorry, Laurel. Okay, Sheila is still in the lead. Excellent. Yeah, spending as little as 5 minutes with a dog can decrease cortisol levels. So what does this mean? It means decreased anxiety, lower heart rates and blood pressure. It means an increase in our B endorphins, which lessens depression. It means increased oxytocin, which is beneficial in helping anxiety, depression, autism, and IBS. It also means an increase in dopamine. So that stimulates learning and attention, increases motivation, helps regulate heart rate, blood vessel function, kidney function, lactation, sleep, and mood. All really, really good things. So Bryn, again, since you're here, I want you to talk about the other study that I think is even more impressive than the 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, cortisol is a killer. So there was a really cool study done at a college campus where they were trying to denote students' stress levels because of testing. So they swabbed everybody for cortisol before they sat down to an exam, and then they walked a dog in, up and around. The dog was estimated to have been in the room less than, I think, 45 seconds. I think it was 30 seconds. And they swabbed again, and cortisol levels had dropped substantially from that. So pets in our lives are a healthy thing. And I think we should just all have more dogs, cats. I don't know. What do you think, Katie? I'm team dog.
I mean,
Just
I love
kidding.
cats. Yeah.
We always say dogs, but cats also reduce cortisol levels as well.
They do. And did you say this, that they actually didn't even get to touch the dog?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
No touch. Yeah.
No touch. Just seeing and going, oh, that's all they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, they both lower anxiety and stress.
I just like to give Katie a hard time. It's so true.
I know. My stepdaughter has her cat here, and I'm not quite convinced that he lowers my cortisol levels, but he's very cute. So we'll go with that. I would also really encourage you all to check out the Human Animal Bond Research Institute. The link is up there, and I'm sure Tia will share it out. They have some really, really great infographics and information to share on the benefits of pet ownership. Oh my gosh, y'all. They just released a study that said pet ownership saves $22.7 billion in healthcare costs. $22.7 billion in healthcare costs. Can you imagine what we could do with $22.7 billion? It's amazing. That again, they have some really, really great infographics. I also really, really encourage you to check out their videos for their dog prescription and cat prescription. It's really, really great. You know those cheesy prescription commercials that we always see? Well, they did one for dogs and they did one for cats. It is bar none. If you're having a bad day, like watch that. I think they're maybe 30 seconds each. Really, really fantastic. But yeah, they've got great resources on how pets can positively affect PTSD. They even have one for cats, for our cat lovers out there, and the positive benefits that cats have on the heart. And then of course, pets and depression as well. So some great resources there for you all as well. Oh my gosh, Megan, the commercials really are, they're just the best. When I log off of here, I will probably go watch them again. Like they're fantastic. So question 4 or 5, and speaking of just seeing a dog and going, aw, I see one on the screen right now. So I'm loving it. I see a little white puppy from Vicky. I love it. Vicky, you also look very familiar.
Animal Welfare Institute, Ohio Animal Advocates.
There you go. Good to see you, Vicky.
And this is Bo when he loves to get on Zoom calls. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I think one of my cats may make an appearance here at some point. It's about feeding time. So, okay, question 4 or 5. So we know what science tells us about pets and the healing process, but what percentage of survivors indicated that their pets' emotional support and physical protection are significant in their ability to heal and survive? Was it 57%? 64%, 73%, 88%, or 91%. I love science, Brand, but I just love this one better. I know you love the science. Yep, 91%. Let's check out our leaderboard. Okay, Sheila is still in the lead, I do believe. Awesome. Fantastic. We also had a couple of right responses in the Zoom chat. Yeah, 91% of those survivors say my pet plays a significant role in my ability to heal and survive. Okay. Again, one of our advocates from one of our safe housing grants said, the people heal the pets and pets heal the people. It is worth any extra work on the end of the shelter. And I would just encourage us to change that around a little bit. And instead of thinking of it as extra work, I would just encourage us to think of it as different work. And I'll give you a really, really quick story related to this. So Bren and I were at a domestic violence shelter in Connecticut back in, I think it was 2018. And we were helping them become pet friendly. I don't know if anybody from Safe Futures is joining us today, but you should definitely shout out if you're here. So they were in the process. We were there helping them create their pet friendly spaces. And so we just asked their executive director, what made you do this? Why did you make this leap to becoming pet friendly? And she shared this story. So many of the domestic violence shelters in the Northeast, they're kind of think like old Victorian houses. They're multiple stories. There's usually one door in the front. And one door in the back that rarely gets used except for emergencies. So small spaces. And so one time a survivor with her young boy, who I think was about 7, they came to shelter and they snuck their dog in. And obviously, considering the small spaces, it did not take long for the shelter staff to realize that there was a dog in the house. And so the staff were at a crossroads and they just decided, hey, we're not going to kick this family out. We're just going to make it happen. We're going to figure this out. And this is the way that we hear many domestic violence shelters enter into this, that somebody comes in and they just make the decision to make it work. So part of their strategy was that they had a crate and they had an area set up for the dog in it was kind of a staff room, but a room that they also used for like some counseling and some group sessions. So Pet was in there. At the same time, 7-year-old boy really shut down, not talking to staff, not talking to counselors, not really, even talking to mom a whole lot. She didn't really know what was happening with him either. So one day in his counseling session, they happened to do it in the room where the dog was, right? So what happens? The little boy physically turns to the dog and speaks to the dog about all of the emotional, physical, and sexual abuse that he had experienced at the hands of the abuser. Still never talks to any of the humans in the room, but he tells his dog that this is what happens. But the humans in the room, of course, hear, and they're like, aha, now we know, now we have this information, now we can support this little boy, we can support this family. So fast forward, short amount of time that we have to fast forward, family is thriving. Little boy is absolutely thriving. He's engaged, he's participating, he's doing so much around the shelter that they had to create a title of junior volunteer because he was their first junior volunteer. So family gets into long-term housing. I think they got into Habitat for Humanity. They're still engaged with the shelter. They're still giving back and they're still thriving. So I ask you, If the dog had not been in the room on that day with the little boy, would the staff have learned what had happened to him? I tend to think folks in human services are amazing, and I think they would have figured it out eventually, but would it have happened as quickly? Absolutely not. And so that's really important, because the more quickly that we can move families into whatever their own success is, however they determine success, when we can make that happen more quickly, we're opening up space for more families to come in, right? And so for me, that's why I say, don't think about it as extra work. Think about it as different work, because having pets in shelter, while I totally get it, I come from the human services world, folks probably think we're crazy when we're like, hey, house people and pets. It really does help make your job easier, okay? So what role can you play? And I know that we have folks who are joining us from a few different areas. Generally when we talk about collaboration and pet housing programs, there are three really main important sectors or groups that really need to be a part of this. And that's, of course, domestic violence organizations, that's animal services organizations, and is veterinary medicine. And the really cool thing about it is that not any one of you have to be the expert in everything. So DV shelter folks, you don't have to be animal experts. Animal shelter folks, animal org folks, you don't have to be experts in domestic violence or homelessness or any of that. And the same for our vet medicine folks, okay? So in a little bit more detail, these are some of the roles that these three different sectors can play. For our domestic violence organizations, you can ask about pets during safety planning, during intake, okay? You have some pet-friendly resources from our Safe Escape grants, which Tia, if you can drop that link in, that would be great. You also have those pet-friendly resource directories, right? We want you to provide training on DV, training and education on DV to our animal shelter folks, because we're going to talk about what we want them to do in a second. And we also want you to assist in creating a plan of action. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second too. Animal services folks, think about if you're not asking about a crisis situation when somebody comes in to relinquish a pet, you most likely have the pets of domestic violence survivors on your adoption floors, okay? And so we really want you to get that training, be able to ask about the crisis situation, and be able to create that plan of action with your domestic violence shelter partner so that you know how and when to connect a survivor to that resource and keep that pet and that person together. If you can help keep those pet parents and their pets together, that's going to help make sure that your adoption floors are open to pets who truly need to be adopted, okay? Animal shelter folks, you can also assist in the design of pet spaces. I will also say, just remember that these are owned pets, probably not at the volume that you are going to see coming through your animal shelter. And so, you don't need, what are some of the things that you usually say you do not need, Bryn, when you're sheltering in a home versus a animal shelter?
You don't need to pressure wash your house. You don't need to do all these things that, just keep it simple. How pets are housed in your home is how they'll be housed in your shelter.
Yep. Thanks, Bryn. You can also play a really important role in being that backup housing option, whether that be in shelter or through foster. Not all pets are going to thrive in a communal living situation. And of course, we're going to have pets outside of dogs and cats and fish and maybe snakes that domestic violence shelter staff may not feel comfortable having on site, right? So be that backup housing option. And also really, really important, provide training and support to staff and pet parents. So provide that training to DV shelter staff on basic animal behavior. Provide that training and support to pet parents. You may have some pets coming in that have some challenging behaviors because they've been abused. And so think about what support you can provide to those pet parents, okay? Veterinary medicine, you are probably going to see domestic violence survivors and their pets come through your clinics. Okay. So it's really important that you know those signs, you know how to respond. You're going to get that training from your domestic violence shelter partners. Okay. And they're going to help you create that plan of action. So again, you know how to respond, who to connect those pet parents to. Really important, we need you to provide the basic medications and initial exams to survivors who are coming through. Obviously, the initial exam is really important to make sure the pet is healthy, but it's also really important to help show that ownership piece, okay? Certainly would love to have you assist with more complex veterinary needs, but before you get too scared about that, just know that complex veterinary needs are rarely ever needed or seen. So most of the time, folks are just going to need that basic medication, the initial exam, flea and tick, dermatological kind of things, and maybe some dental stuff, or the majority of the veterinary stuff that we see coming through. And host a donation drive or a roundup fundraiser. When I leave the vet's office and I'm spending $500, literally what is $5 more, I will probably donate that to know that I am supporting a great local nonprofit who's helping to keep people and pets together. Okay. And of course, we hope that you'll join the movement. The 25 by 2025 movement. So you can get all of the information at 25by2025.org. If you haven't visited there yet, we really hope you'll go and visit. You can download your badge and you can use that to show your support on your website, on social media. We've got 4 different badges. One that says, hey, we're pet friendly already. We're a domestic violence shelter. We're pet friendly. If you're not quite pet friendly yet, but you're committed to becoming pet friendly, I see a couple of folks on here who I know who are in the process of becoming pet friendly. Throw that badge up on your website, your social. If you're an advocate for pets and people, and you're not really from a domestic violence shelter, maybe you're at an animal shelter, or you're in law enforcement, and you just want to help make sure that this kind of programming comes to your community, we've got that badge for you. And if you're a survivor and you're an advocate and want to see these kinds of resources in your community, we've got that badge for you as well. We also have a toolkit for you. The toolkit is really great because it gives you some sample language that you can share on social media, you can share via email. We even have letters to the editor. So lots of great sample language and tools for you to grab from that toolkit. I also apologize. The Huskies are getting a little excited upstairs. It may be close to their dinner time, although I already fed them to try and avoid this. So don't know what's happening. And then our last question, question 5 of 5. So this is for all the winnings. If you win, we'll keep an eye on the leaderboard. If we'll do the top 5. So if you're in the top 5, what I'm going to want you to do is send a chat message, a message to Danielle, or you can email Danielle. Danielle, if you will drop your email address in there, and you're going to give Danielle your mailing address, and you'll let her know if you want the leash, the cat collar, Purple Leash Project cat collar, or the sticker. So you're going to let Danielle know if you are in the top 5. Okay, thanks, Danielle. Here we go. Question 5 of 5. How many survivors were unaware that some DV shelters accept pets? Was it 18%, 32%, 45%, 72%, or 83%? This does come from that URI PALS report again. So how many survivors were unaware? We see an 83% in the chat. All right, 6 of you got it right. 72%. Let's check out our leaderboard. Going to have to look real good on this one. Here we go. Winner is Sheila. All right, Sheila, you are first place. Danielle, is this Danielle from RedRover?
It is not me.
Okay.
There's another Danielle somewhere.
All right. So the other Danielle, then we have Sakura, Nancy, and Megan. So those 5 folks, reach out to Danielle, let her know what you would like to have and your mailing address, and we will make sure that you get your winnings, your Purple Leash Project winnings. Yeah, so 72% of those 2,500 survivors had no idea that a pet housing program was even a thing. And remember that this same group of people, 97% of them said that whether or not they could take their pet with them factored into their decision to leave. So 2 really important statistics. If we create this kind of programming, we have to talk about it. We have to put it on our websites. We have to ask when we're doing safety planning and intake, because survivors don't know that this programming exists, and they aren't going to come right out and tell you that they have a pet. Okay. So the other thing that you can do that's really important, or the other few things that you can really do, is help raise awareness. I think there's a lot of work that we can do to normalize the conversation around domestic violence, what it is, how to connect people to resources. And I think that truly extends to pets. Like, we need to let survivors know that these resources exist. It's important to connect with others, especially any DV shelters that are joining us that are already pet friendly. You can play such a huge role in helping others follow your lead. If you're already part of the first 25%, kudos to you. Let's help get other folks into that percentage as well. Share your experience. I think, Bryn and I can talk all day long about things and strategies to overcome challenges. But when it comes from you all doing the work, it means so much more than anything Bryn or I could ever say. We would love for you to post on social using hashtag 25by2025, and also keep your eyes out on your email and your social media, because our special 25by25 2025 Pets Are Family shirts will be available for purchase. So you can show your support that way. Definitely post on social, use that hashtag. And I would just finally encourage you all to create those light bulb moments. And so this really refers to the idea that there are still so many people out there who don't know about the link between human and animal violence. Roughly 22% of you all didn't know about the link between human and animal violence before you heard about the 25 by 2025 campaign. That was one of the questions that we asked you when you registered. And so there's just a lot of conversation, I think, left to be had. When you download the badge, you download the toolkit, you're going to catch the latest news. I'm sorry, Bryn, I couldn't help it. I had to put in one joke. So you're going to get all of the information on workshops and presentations that we're doing, via Don't Forget the Pets, or via RedRover, via Greater Good Charities. We're going to share all the new learning and resources, of course, announcements and updates, like when the t-shirt is going to be available. We know that there are challenges to creating this kind of programming, and we're here for it. We're here to help you through it. Through the Don't Forget the Pets project, we offer free training workshops virtually and in person. That should be attend a special presentation. Apologies for that. We offer lots of special presentations on special subjects. We've got one coming up with ruthless kindness out in California. Sign up for the coaching program. It's one-on-one training and consultation to help you through this process. Everything from collaboration and policies and procedures to working with Bryn and her team on design and construction and budgets. It's all free, everybody. You can get all the information on the website. You can also follow us on Facebook. Here are some of the upcoming events that we have for Don't Forget the Pets. We've got a virtual workshop on November 2nd. And then Bryn and I are hitting the road here coming up very soon. We've got some in-person workshops in Raleigh, North Carolina, Springfield, Illinois. We've got one in Salt Lake City, Utah. There will be one in New Jersey coming up somewhat soon. And you can get all of that information on don'tforgetthepets.org/events. We also have a special Empathy is Everything, which is a veterinary specific workshop coming up. So lots of good stuff. We would love to have you follow us on social media. Again, we're going to blast out all of this news and information and announcements on our social media platform. Ooh, San Diego's here. Lauren's here. Hey, Lauren. Oh my gosh. I saw you register and I was so excited. Just really want to give a special shout out to our partners at PetSmart Charities for helping to make this work happen. It takes money and it takes awareness raising and it takes support. And so we just really, really appreciate you supporting this effort. And we also just want to thank Purina for their support via the Purple Leash Project and making this happen. Oh my gosh, Stacy, I didn't see you were here. Hi, Stacy. So glad to see you too. And then finally, I am blind. I just want to share, it's a quick 1-minute video from another wonderful, fabulous group that we consider our partners in this effort as well. So here we go. Bren, you're going to have to let me know if it does not sound good. Okay.
Research shows that 48% of survivors delay leaving an abuser because they can't bring their pets with them. And sadly, only 17% of domestic violence shelters currently can allow pets on site.
There are so many benefits of being a pet-friendly organization.
One of the most important things is that it makes our shelter feel like a home.
The work that we do here is hard. It's going to always be hard. Being a pet-friendly organization has really helped our staff.
It also means that survivors of domestic violence don't have to stay in unsafe living conditions anymore.
RedRover and Greater Good Charities are working together to help make sure that 25% of domestic violence shelters in the U.S. become pet friendly by 2025.
And you can help.
If you're already a pet friendly shelter or you just want to find out how to spread the word, visit 25by2025.org to see what you can do.
And let's all work together to reach the goal of 25% of domestic violence shelters becoming pet friendly by the year 2025.
I know it was a bit laggy, but Tia is going to share the link to the YouTube video. Definitely encourage you to share it with folks. And really just a super heartfelt thank you to our friends at Safe Voices. They are always down to support us when we ask them to do something. I don't think they've told us no yet. So super appreciate the Safe Voices folks. Last question that I have for you all, would just love to know what's something you're taking away from today. So I'll give folks a chance to respond to that. I will keep the Menti open, but I will stop sharing our screen. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, Sherry, to see what questions we have.
Right now?
Yeah. You ready?
All right. Well, Tanya is asking, how do we download our badge?
Ooh, that's a good question. So you are going to go, I have it up on my other screen, so I'm just going to go do it so I can make sure that I give you the right info. I believe they go to take the pledge, right? From the homepage. Yep. So you're going to go to 25by2025.org and you are going to click on take the pledge, and it's going to ask you for some basic information about you, and then you're going to get your badge, and I believe they get the toolkit at that point as well, right, Sherry? Oh, cool. Awesome. Beverly, I see your hand raised.
Hi, yes. Sherry Matson remembers me, or probably more my cat, Benny. Benny is a survivor of horrific abuse at the hands of his owner's boyfriend, and then his owner, the girlfriend. And we believe that there was domestic violence as well, because there was a 5-year-old boy who said he was loved hard, like the boyfriend loved Benny. Anyway, during COVID, Benny had a virtual birthday party, and you all participated and spoke to raise awareness. And that's what Benny does, is he raises awareness through his social media and public events on the link between domestic violence and animal abuse, as well as resiliency. And he's been dubbed the International Ambassador of Hope and Joy, because he was a kitten, should have been scared to death and hate people. He's a lover. He just loves people. So my question is, we'd like to do more with you all, or represent you, be an ambassador for your organization, with domestic violence, whether it be the Purple Leash, 25 by 2025. And I was just, who can I speak to or write to hopefully do this? And he's sound asleep across the room, so I won't put him on, but I have my other cat, Manny, coming anyway.
Beverly, I'm so glad that you could join us. And I know it was Nicole who I believe participated in the virtual party, and she had a blast. And I would say reach out to Sherry. And so Sherry can certainly talk to you about that. Sherry is our Director of Public Relations and Partnerships now, I believe. I got it right. So yeah, we would love to see what we can do there, and just so thankful for the support that you and Benny have provided over the years.
Okay, great. And would I be able to find an email for her on your website? Or
We'll drop her email in here in the chat.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you all do extraordinary work.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have from Evan, Jane, Chris. Basically, all types of shelters should be built to house people and pets, and those that are already built must be retrofitted to do so. How do we insist this happens? Where does the funding come from? HHS should fund this. How do we get them to fund this?
Yeah, that's so HHS is Health and Human Services. That's I would imagine a very large question, large discussion, large process. I would also say, let's be careful about insisting and more encouraging. And the only reason I say that is because, prior to RedRover, I did work in human services. And so I fully understand that, domestic violence shelters, human services folks, they already have a lot on their plate, in terms of housing people with other people. And so, we tend to take the approach of, we're going to compassionately love you through this. We're going to help you through that process. We're going to help you through those boundaries. And so I think encouragement would be just a phrase that I would use instead of insist. I think sharing resources like the 25 by 2025 campaign, like the Don't Forget the Pets campaign. And then Bran, I don't know if you want to share anything just to kind of touch on that construction piece.
I mean, asking shelters to what? My dogs think it's time to go for a walk. I am very sorry. So the construction piece is hard. A lot of shelters are very much struggling financially. And so, the asking them to retrofit is tricky, but you don't have to, if you join us for one of our longer, Don't Forget the Pets trainings, we can walk you through some of those options, but it really doesn't need to be very complicated. So the retrofitting can be very simple. We don't need to, as Katie would say, catastrophize that. See, I can steal your dad jokes, Katie. But yeah, it's really not that hard, but I agree. It can be asking a lot. So you have to, what do you say? Gentle persistence or
Patiently hound.
Patiently hound.
It's another joke. I patiently hound.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, and I think that's a really great point, Bren. We offer the grants of up to 60,000, right? To create this kind of pet friendly space. Bren and her team, of course, offer the grants to actually do the construction, but it doesn't have to be the Maserati. Like, it can be the Hyundai, it can be the Toyota. We can start small and we can work up to something big. So, and I know we're at time. I'm definitely going to hang out I do just want to say, folks, if you want to drop off, please feel free to do so. But I just want to share my heartfelt thank you for joining us today for our kickoff call, for wanting to learn about this campaign and bringing it to your communities. We can't really do this without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to stick on. Please feel free to stick around if you would like. I think we might have a couple more questions, Sherry. Yeah, cool.
Sorry.
Actually, and can we ask everybody to write their representatives to ask about reauthorization of the PAWS Act, because that's another huge fund for safe haven building, and we do need it reauthorized. It's been 5 years. It's done good work too.
Yep. Great point, Vicki. Thank you. Thank you. There's also something very similar making its way around right now called the PUP Act, PUPP. Very similar to the PAWS Act. It is federal funding for shelters serving the houseless. So two really, really important pieces of legislation. Thank you, Vicki. Sherry.
Yes, we have a lot of comments, more than questions, actually.
Okay.
This is a huge problem in homeless shelters too.
Mm-hmm.
Pets are used successfully for therapy in hospitals, so it should be in shelters.
Mm-hmm. Can I just touch on that homeless shelter piece a little bit too?
Mm-hmm.
Our safe housing grants currently are for domestic violence shelters, right? We do offer support for homeless shelters through the Don't Forget the Pets project. So we invite and have many folks from homeless shelters joining us. We coach them, we do all of that. And there may be some funding in the near future for a small number of homeless shelters to receive some grant funding from RedRover in the near future. So please stay tuned to your emails and your social media. We may have some of that money. Sherry, I did just see Laura's question come in about Canada. Oh, Canada, you all are doing some amazing work up there in Canada around this issue. I am absolutely blanking, oh my gosh, on the work that you all are doing via Humane Canada, I believe. We're offering resources. I encourage you to keep asking, Laura. But there's a ton of work happening in Canada related to, providing that technical support, technical assistance to domestic abuse shelters in Canada to help them create pet-friendly resources. Canada, you're on our radar. We will definitely let folks know if we can cross the border and give some money financially. Other questions, other thoughts, Sherry?
Yes. From Dakota, thank you so much for all you have done. I am a DV survivor, and RedRover gave me a domestic violence grant in 2012. I love your organization, and thank you for all that you do for people and their pets.
Oh, thank you, Dakota.
Thanks, Dakota.
It's very sweet.
Thank you, thank you.
And another Canadian too. Please come across the border, Mira. Mira, we never, we never stop trying to figure out a way to copy ourselves and be everywhere. So don't give up hope.
I got to get my real ID. Ooh, it's coming up.
Kate Campbell.
No, the deadline's coming up real soon. Ooh. Yes, Dakota, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
We have another, as a survivor, this is personal to me. I learned today some great ideas, and we'll see if I can work with the local animal shelters and shelters. Love to have the opportunity to build something. Maggie.
Love it.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Johanna from the Facebook side, do you have any questions? Totally putting you on the spot right now too. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm ready to go, but no questions from Facebook, more reactions. Some hugs and hearts. Awesome. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thank you, Johanna. Any other questions that folks want to verbally call out? Excellent. Well, we hope you go visit the website. Please download your badge, download your toolkit. You've got, hopefully, I think a few of us shared our email addresses. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will send a follow-up email with slides, with a recording of the video, and we'll also include a link to that YouTube video. And your final assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to please go to Habry and watch the dog and the cat prescription videos. You will thank me later for that. They are fantastic. So thank you, everyone. Danielle, do you want to stop the recording?